is Wayne Cameron. Again, continuing my series on gaining confidence as a young trumpet player. I had several people ask me to give more examples of when people have editing done in their recordings. So I have a couple to share with you. I'm not going to give you any names, but I'll tell you what I learned. There were two wind players, very famous wind players, who just had recordings done in the last few years. And the first one was retiring from performing. And so he came to Peabody, where I teach, to have his last recording made. And one of my students happened to be on the recording team that recorded his CD. Well, my student told me that in every movement of every piece, he had 250 edits. He said that when they would send the master recording to this person, if he saw the slightest nuance he didn't like, he would travel to Baltimore just to play that phrase, to make it nuanced perfectly. 250 edits in each movement. Then the other example, this other famous wind player, won Namberg Awards. I think that's what they're called for recording. And he won the award for his recording, and his engineer won an award for recording this guy's recording. Well, I never heard of an engineer getting an award. I just thought engineers just set up the microphones and pushed a button. Well, no, that's obviously far from the case. This performer told me that they recorded every measure of all his pieces on this recording, one measure at a time, and did 10 or 15 recordings of each measure. And then he and the engineer sat down and picked the best measures and spliced them all together to make this recording. So no wonder it's perfect. I mean, you know, I'm not degrading these guys how they play. They're both great players, but just give you another example of how that works. A friend of mine in London Symphony years ago was making a recording of the Second Brandenburg Concerto. He told me that he traveled out to the recording studio in Germany early, and and the engineer, he played his trumpet up to all the high notes and held them out for a long time. And the recording engineer recorded all those notes in case he missed the high notes. When the orchestra got there, he could splice in the notes if he missed the high notes. So those are three examples of how they do recordings. Okay. Now, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about strategies for making you consistent as a young performer. Now, in my last two episodes where I'm talking about the fight or flight syndrome and how your mouth dries out and how the butterflies make you tight and all like that, if you review those, I'm not going to go through all of that again. But I am going to mention, with most young players, what goes wrong in a performance when they get nervous is the fact that the butterflies start and they furrow their abs and they can't breathe. They can't breathe, so they can't play. So it's absolutely essential in your preparation as a player in general to get your breathing under control. Now, again, I'll reiterate what I said before. You must do live performances in front of people. Some people, it makes them really nervous to play it for a tape recorder. Well, you can play for a recorder and that makes you nervous. That will create the situation. Now, what you do when you do these performances is you set a goal. Your goal would be breathing. If I breathed correctly the whole time, that was a successful performance. If I did not, that was not a successful performance. It doesn't matter how many notes you got or how many notes you missed. Breathing is the priority. If you do that enough, you'll learn how to control this. Now, another way that you can practice that is, say, when you go to band or orchestra rehearsal, a lot of kids, they say to get really bored in rehearsals, especially after they can already play the music. Well, you need to have a goal for going to that rehearsal. Say to yourself, when I'm going to rehearsal today, the only reason I'm going is to practice my good breathing. So if you can sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes, excuse me, and get your breathing well, that is incredibly worth it. Then you're really practicing trying to be consistent. And you can also use that for good tongue-in attacks, good posture, intonation. You can say, okay, today when I go in, low D is inherently sharp on a B flat trumpet, so you use your third valve slide. Today I'm going to use my low D with this third valve slide all the time. So that adds to your ability and consistency. And it adds to you saving practice time when you get home. So that's about it for the gaining confidence. I hope you review all three of them. And if you have any comments, I'd welcome them. See you later.